Hi, hi, hi.
Hello.
Everybody.
That was great. I love that.
We're back with another episode of Beyond the Thought Podcast, where we're talking about issues you're probably thinking about. My name is Lynette.
And my name is Z.
Welcome again to another episode. So last week,
last
episode. We talked about our parents. Well, not that episode, but 2 episodes before that, we talked about our parents. We did one for our mothers and we did one for our fathers. They were pretty intense. I don't know if this one is going to be a little lighter. We can't promise anything.
We can't promise nothing. We'll just start.
We can't promise anything. But we wanted to explore us being parents ourselves. Like I mentioned in our first episode, that between us we have 5 kids. Z has 5 whole kids. Z has
3.
Yes. And I have 2 girls.
Yes.
And we just
have 2 boys and a girl.
And we just wanted to explore how it looks for us being parents, coming from the background that we have. The background that we explained a little bit on the last few episodes that we did. We just want to kind of have a conversation about how parenting looks for us, the things that we've learned, the things that we've unlearned again, so that we can be the best parents that we could possibly be for our offspring.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that we're having conversations about parents and our fathers and mothers, because they are the biggest influences in people's lives as children.
Absolutely.
You know, like as children, like our parents, our mothers, our fathers are the number one model for how to be adults, like how to go through this life,
right?
You know,
right.
And then also, like, I remember somebody telling me that like our first scars often come from our parents. You know,
right.
Our first loves and our first scars often come from parents. And so, you know, when people are in therapy and stuff and they're processing some of their stuff,
right.
A lot of things come up about their parents, you know, or like their childhood, or like, you know, what happened to them when they were kids and stuff like that. So I think it's important to sort of, for both of us to unpack, you know, what our parents' influences were in our lives, and then also moving forward, how that also influences the way we parent, you know? Because I think a lot of the time people are like, you know, I don't want to do this like my mom, I don't want to do this like my dad, but then they end up finding themselves doing the exact same thing. Right?
Exactly.
And you're just like, I am my mother and my mother is me. Yeah.
I hear you. And I wanted to put a disclaimer. I think from the last 2 episodes that we've had, that we love our parents.
Oh yes. Oh, very much so.
In the sense of it, like we.
If it came off as if we didn't love our parents, then you misunderstood.
You misunderstood.
Yes.
We love our parents, but I think it was good to have that conversation as to how it shaped our lives, right? And I hope that it wasn't misconstrued in any way, that in the things, because we talked about deep things on the last 2 episodes, and I really want to kind of put that out there, that they're the reason we're here.
Absolutely.
So
their sacrifices brought us here.
Absolutely. And it's not in any way a parent bashing thing. So just wanted to put that out there, just make a disclaimer, because, you know,
just in case one of them,
just in case.
My dad would be like, I listen to the podcast. C'est quoi ça? Oh gosh. Really? You know what that is? Funny enough, side story. So my father-in-law was in town, right? For a while. And then I had been telling him that I was coming here for a podcast. Yeah. And he'd asked me a whole bunch. He's like, so what is this podcast? And so I'd explain, I'm like, it's kind of like a radio show. Yeah. He's like, oh, this is very interesting. He kept asking all these questions. I'm like, you know what, Dad? I'm going to put you on an episode one of these days.
That would be
He's
great.
Like, tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, I wish, but you're leaving the day after. So, oh well. But it was pretty. I would love to have him on our episode one of these days.
He's hilarious. Though,
yeah, he is so funny. I love him so much. Anyways,
yes, got sidetracked a little bit.
Yes, we got sidetracked.
But we're having that conversation about how we've been shaped and how we're using whatever it is that we've been socialized as parents to move forward into our parenting journey. So I guess I'll start with you, Z.
Yes.
She had kids before I did, so I mean, it's just fair.
You know, when I think back, I'm like, man, I feel like I was young.
Yeah,
but then at the same time, we have a lot of friends that are having kids around that same age too. So it's kind of like, maybe I wasn't that young. But anyway.
So what was your first thought that came to your mind one, that you were pregnant and that you were pregnant with a boy? What are the feelings that kind of came up for you?
Yeah, I remember being super shocked. Like,
really?
Yeah, because Kwaku and I were like, oh, we're gonna wait 2-3 years until we have kids. We got married in May. And July, I remember our best friend's wedding, I was just feeling sick. It was in July, and I'm like, I'm feeling sick. I'm popping all this gravel, and it's like, I'm feeling sick. And she's like, why are you so sick? I'm like, I don't know. It didn't even cross my mind. And then after a while, I think Kwaku had a dream. And he woke up and he's like, you're pregnant. I was like, nah, bro, I'm not pregnant. No. We're doing everything that we're supposed to do. I'm not pregnant. I was pregnant. And the funny thing is, we went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, you're very pregnant. As if he could be half pregnant.
Or like the baby could be in shadow form or schematic, a little skeleton.
She's like, no, you're very pregnant. So I was like shocked. I think I laughed for a really long time because we weren't ready. We just got married. We were young. I wasn't working. Kwaku was working like part-time. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, why are you always thinking about finances? Like, yo, kids are money.
Kids are expensive.
Oh.
They're pricey. There's a lot of money involved. So
we won't even get into
think
that.
about finances.
Hey, anyway. We'll talk about that in another episode.
Because it needs a whole episode.
Wow.
We digress.
Yeah, so we were broke as heck. And so having a child come along was like a huge shock. But at the same time, I was like, oh wow, so I can get pregnant. Because I think that's another thing that we don't really think about. It's kind of like, oh, when we get married, we'll just have babies, without thinking that some people actually have fertility issues, right? So I was like, okay, so I can get pregnant. Okay. And then we found out we're having a boy. I was like, okay. I think I was more shocked. I think I was more nervous about having a girl than I was about having a boy.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah, like, because I feel like boys are not very complicated, to be very honest with you. They're not complicated. At least my sons are not as complicated as my daughter.
I've heard that before.
I think that, there's a lot. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about it when we talk about your daughters, but girls are a lot, in my opinion. And with my sons, what you see is what you get.
Right.
Like my first Azarel is just like everything he thinks about, it comes out. It literally, no filter, nothing. So you can always know what he's thinking and what he's processing. Amaya, it's kind of like just this little ball of a secret. She's very observant, but she's just like a ball of a secret. And you're just kind of like, okay,
digging.
Help me figure out what's going on with you, and so I struggle a little bit with my daughter. Also just because of like my relationship with my mother, there are certain things I'm like, okay, she's a woman. I want to be able, she's a woman. Well, she's a girl going to be a woman, pretty much, right? Like I want to be able to steward her well.
Right.
But then I also have these hang-ups even as myself as a woman. Like I still don't fully understand the whole concept of, okay, being a mom, being a woman. I'm still figuring it out now. Like I'm supposed to help her through this journey that I'm figuring it's confusing for me. Yeah. But anyway, that's what it was like with having Azarel. Like there was just I was just so scared to, like, how am I going to raise this child? Especially because when I talk about how broke Kwaku and I were, like people, like food bank. Like, we used to go to the food bank. No, we didn't even used to go. Yeah. This is why I loved our church so much. Like, they used to actually prepare food boxes for us, like, without even asking. Yeah. I don't know if they're allowed to do that, but they did that. Because they just knew,
you were in need.
Oh, so in need, you know? And so to bring a child into that, you know, but there was so much joy and peace regardless of the fact that we didn't have much, you know, because we're just like, well, kids really don't need that much, you know? They don't need all the fancy stuff. Yeah. So, like, we had the basics and we were happy with that, you know? Right. So that was my experience with Azarel. Yeah. You want me to go through all the kids?
How about when your second pregnancy, now it's a girl. Did you have this feeling of like, oh, I don't even know what to do with a girl?
No. So with Amaya, it wasn't a surprise. Amaya, we're like, okay, now we're going to have a second child. So, like, my mindset was already different, right? Because Azarel kind of like just sprung up on us. Right, and then Amaya was like, okay, now we're ready to have a child. Let's actually do the do to have a child. do to have a child, you know? And so I remember, like, we were trying and then, like, months went by and we weren't like, it wasn't happening. And I was like, uh-oh, is this secondary infertility? You know, because that is also a thing.
It's a thing.
Right? We'll talk about that in another episode. So I was like, man, maybe I am struggling with infertility because, like, how is it that with Azarel, like, within, like, 2 months, not even 2 months, pregnant. And then here I am month after month after month and baby's not coming until one day we just gave up on trying. And then, boom, I got pregnant, right? So we're really excited for that. And then we found out it was a girl. And I was like, oh, this is great because boy, girl, one and done. Like, we're done, right? Yeah. But, like, again, you know, the thoughts of like, wow, what kind of mom am I going to be to this girl?
Right.
You know, what am I going to teach her? Like, there was just so much. And then also because I had so many, like, what's the word that I'm thinking about? I had a lot of unresolved issues with my mother. And I was like, I just don't want to pass on, you know. But then when she came, it was just like, wow, this is like my baby girl, like my princess. You know what I mean? Like, it was so amazing. Like, and the funny thing is, like, people are like, oh, how could you? I remember somebody asked you this. It's like, how can, like, when you have multiple children, do you love them all just as much? You know, because it's like you have one and you think that your heart is like full with this child, but then you have a second one and it's like, do you think that you have more to give? That's like you have more than
way
enough,
more to
right?
give,
yeah. So Amaya was just kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Breath of fresh air.
She was a breath of fresh air. Yeah. She was smiling. She had a dimple on her cheeks. Aww. Every time she smiled up, you go, oh my God, she's so cute. And then, like, you know, she's getting older. Now she's 6. Yeah. And now the questions are coming up. Like, you know, like the attitude.
All the things.
Let's put a pin. Let's put a pin on Amaya. How about you? We'll get to my last board.
Your last board. But we'll get to your last board soon. But I have 2 girls.
Yes.
So in 2000, Grace is my first. She was born in 2019. And I think it was planned. It was like, okay, like,
now you're ready.
I absolutely wanted to be a mother. I wanted.
How long did you get pregnant after you got married?
6 months.
Oh wow, okay, good.
It was just like, oh, we're ready. Like, it's time. I think somebody saw me at church and said, "Oh, you didn't waste any time, did you?" I was like,
why?
Was I supposed to wait? Like, listen. No, we knew we were ready for a kid, and I don't know about Tony, but I was. He was on board eventually. When it happened, happened pretty quick. But then I think when I was pregnant, I was like, oh, I want a boy. And not for any particular reason. It was just that I also thought that boys are easier to just handle. So I was like, oh, I want a boy. And that was that. Like, there wasn't anything like internally like, oh, if I have a girl, it's going to be so sad. Like, you know, it was just like, oh, I want a boy. And then we found out that we're having a girl. I was like, wow. I don't think I had any kind of thought about it. It was just like, wow, we're having a girl. Yeah. This is great. But I think I remember having, especially also going back to like the relationship I had with my father and with my mother, mostly with my father. I had some sense of like anxiety about like having a girl and bringing a girl into this world and all the things in this world that could happen to her, happen to girls, like in general. I was thinking about all of that, but not to a great extent. It was just like, okay, wow, I'm having a girl. But I remember starting to pray a lot about what kind of a mother I would be to her, and how, and just like leaning on God and just be like, God, really, I just need your help with a girl, because I don't know. I almost felt that I couldn't be a good mother to a girl.
Right.
So those feelings were there.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't. Again, because of like unresolved issues that I have with myself, and I just didn't know that I had the empathy enough to nurture a girl.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, that could definitely stem from different places, but I just felt like I didn't have that empathy that was required to nurture a girl.
Yeah.
So those that kind of really just put me at the feet of God and be like, God, like I really need your help here.
Yeah.
I would ask him for like a word for my daughter, like all of those things, because I was just like, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
So that was with Ellie Grace, and then she came, and I was like, oh, like just small, like it was just. I just had so much peace, and like I had some complications with my pregnancy. So, when it was, and I got induced, so it was like, okay, we're inducing, and baby has to come out. I was like completely at peace, knowing that she was gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It was gonna be fine. We're gonna take her home, and she's gonna be completely fine, even though it was the circumstances that it happened. Tony was really anxious though, but it was good. It was good. It brought her home, and then I think, for me, in my mind, it was just like, I'm taking it one day at a time. I really cannot rush the process in my mind, because there was a lot of it was happening in my mind. I can't rush it. I just need to take it one day at a time, and just kind of figure it out as I go. And it's honestly just been great. Like Grace and I have this really tight bond.
Oh, that's nice.
That like I can't even explain how like tight we are. And then 2022 comes around, and again, it was planned. Had another girl.
Yes.
I think I was telling Tony, if I were to have another one, or even a fourth, it would be a girl. Like I am so dead sure that it would be a girl. Like I'm convinced it would be a girl. And I have my reason for it, but like I just could feel it that it could be a girl. But when I found out that it was a little girl, I was just like, this is a no-brainer. Like this is great. Like I know what to do with a girl. I think if at that time I had a boy, I'd be like,
what do we do with boys? Yeah, right.
I know what to do with a boy. But it was so great. Like I know the transition between 1 and 2 was really hard, even though they were both girls.
But it's still like adding another baby.
Adding another. And I remember we had this conversation that I always go back to. About like, how do I get a grip on this? And you're just like, but what would it look like if you had a grip on it? But it took me a while to kind of transition the two. But now they're just in sync, because they're just so close together in age, and they play with each other. Nice. Elsie kind of terrorizes Ellie Grace now. Well, she's doing great. Like my second daughter's name is Elsie, and it's been great. Like it's been absolutely like refreshing just to have girls, to have like little mini-me's. I love it so much.
Are your girls like girly girls? And are you? Because I think that's the challenge I had with Amaya, was the fact that Amaya is a girly girl and I'm not. So it was really difficult. It is difficult to like meet her where she's at. Are you guys sort of like? So
I mentioned in the last episode that like God really brought my girls to heal me and to kind of reveal me to me. I didn't really know what kind of mom I would be to her, but to both of them. But with Ellie Grace is very muted and very prim and proper. Like she's very prim and proper. That's the only way that I can.
That's the way you can describe
her. She is very girly. So in that sense, I think I let them lead in that sense, because I don't even know. I can't even figure out how I would be with them if I didn't let them lead. Like it's just naturally, I just let them lead it to see who they are, and then I kind of fall in. Yeah. Not necessarily that I don't know myself. It's just that's just how I can see it.
Yeah, that's how you kind of like parent them. It's funny. I was telling one of my friends, like, I used to play with dolls, but I don't remember playing with dolls the way Amaya plays with dolls. So Amaya will bring all her dolls, and she's like, "Mommy, can we play with dolls with me?" And I'll be like, "Okay, we're gonna do this today. We're gonna play with dolls. We're gonna do it." And so I'll be there, and I'm like, "Okay, so what's the plot?" Because me in my head, we're doing role play. There has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah. It's all over the place. 1 minute we're building castles, and then all of a sudden, no, we're going to a picnic at a party, and oh no, they're going to school, and I'm just there like,
no. Where do I begin? Where does it end?
So I just get frustrated. I'm like, I can't play anymore. It's like, but mommy, why? Because I don't understand. Like, so what's happening? What's happening right now? She's like, they're just eating. But where are they eating? Like, I don't even get it. And then my friend would be like, you just have to let her lead.
Let her lead.
So I tried it. I was like, I'm going to let her lead. Yeah. But oh my goodness, like everything in me was like, she needs a plot. Like maybe she needs to read more to understand how these things work.
She's 4 or 5 at that point.
She's young. I'm like, what am I doing? That's literally that. And then, but the thing is, when I play Legos with Azarel, and granted, Azarel is older. Yeah. And he is more logical in his thinking.
Yeah, like, more structured.
He's more strict. Like, Azarel and I are that's probably why. Azarel and I are very similar. Oh, right. He's very inquisitive. He's very, like, I'm not very logical, but he is very logical. And I can see where his logic is going. So it makes sense to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it. We're follow suit. With Amaya, it's kind of like, very free-spirited. Kind of like, we're going to go with the flow, mommy. We're princesses. We're makeup. This is so hard for me. So same thing for you. Like I had to take some time to really pray, because I realized that there was some sort of like a disconnect between the two of us. Right. Because I was like, we're so different. But like, she's my only daughter. Like I can't be like, oh, you do your thing and I'll do mine. So I just started praying about it, and I remember thinking like, God, like my mom and I, we're not that close. Like my mom is closer to my 2 older sisters than she is to me. But that could also be because proximity wise, they all live in Africa and I live here. So it's a bit difficult to kind of like time zones and all that. But then also my mom is like Amaya. My mom is very girly girl. Like my mom does all the do your hair, all the eyebrows, all the makeup. Like, okay, give you a perfect example. I work from home, okay? I don't go anywhere. Like, I came here, this was my outing for the week. Outside of church. You know what I mean? So I don't go anywhere. Why? What do I need to do outside of just, like, bath and brush my teeth?
Yeah.
And put on deodorant. You know what I mean? Look decent.
Somewhat decent, yeah.
My mom was like, let's put some small lipstick. I'm like, where am I going? Mom, I love you, but this thing there, I'm like, where am I going? She's like, oh, but you want Kweku to still love you. I'm like, he loves me regardless of how I look. Hopefully,
I hope
he does. But I was like, so that's my mom, you know. So then Amaya is like my mom in the sense that like Amaya likes the makeup, she likes the nail polish, all these things. And so because I already have a disconnect with my mom, it's almost like that was happening in a way with Amaya. And I was struggling with that because I'm like, I don't want, like, she's my only daughter. I don't want us to not be close, you know. So I had to pray about it. I'm still working through it and still processing it, and also trying, because I'm the parent. Like, I can't just be like, Amaya, you have to come over
right.
and be like me. Like, no. Like, you be you, and I am going to adjust in order to make sure that you understand that you being you
can be your full self.
Be your full authentic self without feeling any kind of shame from me. Because that's part of, like, my mom, and not unintentionally from my mom's part, would make me feel ashamed. Right. Like, oh, you're not wearing makeup. You haven't done your nails. You haven't done your eyebrows. You might want to go and wear a dress. Or why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Essentially, like, I'd feel like, so you really want me to just be like you. And you don't know that I am a tomboy. I don't like those things. Yeah. You know? I like makeup, but I just like makeup once a week on Sundays. And we go to church. So that was a challenge that I had having with Amaya. So those are kind of the things that I've been kind of processing and working through.
Yeah. I think the things that I have right now with now having two girls, I think one of the challenges that I've been going through is realizing that they're two separate people, two separate personalities. And now Elsie is my youngest. She's almost 18 months. And now her personality is kind of coming to the surface, and I'm seeing a little bit of that. I mean, she was a baby, so I didn't really. It was just like, okay, you go with the flow. Yeah. But now that her personality is coming out, it's the understanding that these people are two separate people. Yeah. Right. And the way I may have I interact with Ellie Grace could possibly be different with how I interact with Elsie. Yeah. And I mean, it's not so much a challenge, it's just being aware of it, right? I think the challenge is being aware that I can't just put them both in one box. Yeah. And just kind of go with the flow. But being self-aware enough of identifying the two and who they are and what they like, what they dislike, instead of being like, oh, just be with your sister, or
both of you are girls, so you're gonna like the same thing.
No, and it's not necessarily that, right? Like Elsie, I've noticed that Elsie likes different books than Ellie Grace likes. Like it's not always the same. So going forward, it would be like just noticing those things and being aware and paying attention, because you can really miss it if you're not being present, like we said the other day, present and just identifying the differences that exist between, because even twins are different, right? Yeah. So just having that awareness that they are different, could maybe be the challenge, I guess, that I am really faced with now. But yeah,
and even parenting them and disciplining them is different.
It's different.
They're two different.
Absolutely. Ellie Grace is very emotional. She's very emotional, very, very, very touchy-feely. Like that's the kind of person. She wants a hug. She wants you to be, where Elsie's like, like right now at least, like she is just like, just put me down. Like, you know? So just being aware of those things and letting them, again, like lead, right? Not lead in the sense that they're children and they're leading their children.
No, but then like I hear what
emotionally.
Yeah.
So those are the things.
Yeah. So my third born.
Z has a third born.
I have a third child.
Oh. Which is also a boy. Yes. So I guess the question I would have for you there is like, was it easier for you with Kion, your last one, because you had Azrael?
Yes. Because we were having a boy, I kind of was like, I know what to expect. Right. You know what I mean? In the sense that he's gonna, okay, I'm not gonna say that. In the sense that, like, yeah, we're having another boy. We had some hand-me-downs from Azrael. He's just gonna wear those. Yay, we're saving some money. I mean, you know? But Kion's pregnancy was also different because we thought we were done, but not quite. You know what I mean?
You're still on the fence.
We were still on the fence. The fence was kind of like still yay, nay, nay. Yeah. And then I also got pregnant during the pandemic.
Yes.
So that's a whole
different dynamic.
Yeah, because you had both of them in the pandemic.
Both of them in the pandemic.
Ellie Grace at the beginning and then Elsie in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Fam.
It was a lot.
A lot. I remember like my two other, so Azrael and Amaya, Azrael, my mom was here for the end of the pregnancy and his birth, and like a few weeks after. Amaya, I had my godmother with us for a few days, and then my mom came afterwards. And Kion, nobody. Like, we had nobody to help. And it was like, oh, yeah. So
this is how it is?
This is how it is. Like, we have to parent these children by ourselves. You know? So that was a bit tricky in terms of managing the two. Like, I always feel like the biggest transition in terms of having kids is 1 to 2. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever is like, it's just all the same at this point. There's noise, it's just noise, you know? Yeah. So the transition wasn't that bad. Like, Kweku took time off of work. No, he took time off of school because he was working and in school at the same time. But he took time off of school so that he could be more present with the other two, so that I could just focus on Kion. But even Kion coming into this world, there was a lot of things that were just happening. Like, I was dealing with, what was I dealing with at the time? I think I was anxious. Yeah,
that was I think the peak of it.
Yeah, that was the peak of my anxiety. Like, I was really, really anxious, and rightfully so. We're in a freaking pandemic. You know, so I was really, really anxious. I also had bouts of depression as well.
Right.
During that time.
You had that whole hip thing.
That whole hip. These pregnancies, man. We'll talk. Have we had a pregnancy episode? I feel like we have. Have we? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Because if we talk about these pregnancies, just be like, are you sure? Sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It was intense. But when Kion came, like, he looked like a little Indian baby. He had such straight hair.
Yeah, it's a big baby.
Oh, he was big. He was. I think I told you I had baby fever. Yeah, I do. Yeah. But it's not happening. Nope. Anyway. Yeah, he was just a ball of, like, at first in the beginning we were like, man, Kion is so serious. And I was nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, maybe he's just like a melancholy baby because I was so nervous throughout the pregnancy, and maybe my nerves and my emotions transferred to the baby.
Oh,
and I remember
this is somebody who's had 2 kids.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, as if never. My therapist was like, do you really think your emotions are that powerful to influence, like, your baby's personality? I was like, I don't know, maybe. Who knows? So he was so serious and, like, barely laughed. And obviously he was a newborn. Like, newborns don't laugh. But I obviously forgot all of this. So I'm like, he's not laughing. He's a serious baby. Oh, he's gonna be melancholy. And then all of a sudden, this kid went from being super serious to, like, laughing incessantly. Like, Kion is our happy baby. Like, he's always, like, you can just stand there and he'll see a toy and he'll laugh and roll over the floor laughing. And I'm like, so why are you laughing? Nobody knows, though. We just know that he's laughing, and it's so contagious. Like, everybody just starts laughing as well.
Right.
So he's such a, like, the best addition to our family, you know? But the thing I'm noticing is that because Amaya was last born for so long, all of a sudden now she's no longer last born. Now all the attention is not on her anymore. We find that sometimes, like, she'll like cry a little bit more than she used to.
Oh, right.
Or, like, do things that, like, I want attention, you know?
Yeah.
And then I remember one time I was like, Mommy, you spend more time with Kion and Amaya than you do with me. And I was like, fair.
So I was thinking about that. You having 3, like, your emotions are being all over the place. Like, you know, right? Tasked constantly. Yeah. So, like, how's that? How do you, like, going from the person you are as influenced by your parents now on 3 kids? Because I keep telling, and maybe I'll get into a little bit of that, I keep telling friends that I don't know that I could emotionally do more than 2. Right? And it's something that, like, I genuinely don't know that I could do. So you having 3, right?
How is it? I don't know. We're just doing
let us know.
So, like, I think, so, I don't know. Like, for sure, emotionally, I feel stretched. right? Because it's like handling, first of all, there are also a lot of fights in our house. Like Azarel and Maya are just always fighting. Like they're at that age where they're always fighting. And it's like, I'm about to throw you guys out of my house right now. Or lock you in a cupboard. Not even their room, a cupboard. Because this is too much. Like the minute they get home from school, like someone starts crying and emotions all over the place. It's so much. But like one thing I remember telling Kweku was that like when a child is going through something, we focus in on that child.
Right.
And then sometimes we drop the ball because the other two might be like going through something as well, but it might not be as serious.
Right.
But then we still kind of like, oh, you're still here too.
Right.
So it's a bit challenging for us because it's like the two of us, we're outnumbered pretty much. You know, 3 children to 2 parents. So it's we don't really do divide and conquer. Like we both really hone in. Like when a kid is having like some sort of situation, we both hone in to try to figure out what's going on and walk with them. And then if the next child is having something, we walk with them. Next child is having to walk with them. But like one thing that we try to implement at least 2 or 3 times a year, maybe trying to do it a little bit more, is having one-on-one dates with the kids, so that we can like sit down and be like, so what are you thinking about today? You know, or I know all 3 of my kids are really cuddly, so like I'll make sure, okay, I don't feel like being touched today, but because Azarel wants to hug me incessantly, I'm gonna make an effort to just hold him,
right?
Or make an effort to just be with Amaya, or like, you know, I noticed Amaya really likes masks and self-care days, and so I'm like, okay, on Saturday mornings, like Amaya and I are doing our self-care, you know, and then I'll sit with her and do the mask and do the nails, and then while we're doing that, I'm like talking to her, you know, I love you. What are you thinking about? So like. Kion, we haven't done that yet. Kion, like I just cuddle him in bed and he's just like, he's fine. He's like, so yeah, he's like, as long as we're cuddling, I'm okay. And as long as you're making me laugh, I'm okay. Like, so he's just like he's like the lowest maintenance at this point. You know, so that's how we're doing it. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's successful. Like, we're still
but
here.
You're doing the best you can, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where, I mean, I applaud this generation so much, because there are a lot of parents that are just really just trying, right? Like pouring themselves, not so much that you're pouring yourself at your own expense, but they're pouring themselves more than we perhaps saw in our parents' generation.
I
right?
want to say absolutely,
right? Yeah. So that's why I really applaud this generation so much, because it's like, there's a lot of fathers that are in homes that are trying their very best to be present, to be present fathers, present husbands, that are pulling their weight. And honestly, hats off to some of these fathers, because they are really trying, right? And I think that was what was missing in our parents' generation, because the trying almost seemed like the bare minimum. You know, and like we alluded to this in our previous episodes, that it was like, as long as I've provided for you, as long as there's food on the table, as long as, you know, you have a roof over your head, school fees is paid.
What do you need from me?
Again.
Right? School fees
is paid. You are good. Like, what do you need from me?
Yeah. What else do you need? Yeah.
But then you realize that the emotional aspect of your child is being deteriorated, or like even deteriorated before it's blossomed. And then there's all these mixed emotions that they have to deal with later on in life, because you weren't willing to nurture, you know, and be present and ask the questions. Sometimes they are hard questions or hard things to sift through, especially when your child is going through an emotional thing. It's hard to sit with them, to have the patience to sit with them, to ask the questions, to see what really is at the root of it. It takes work.
It does.
Right?
It does. Yeah.
And I think the input of that work was a lot of times what was missing from that generation. And I think in this generation, what at least I know my husband and I are trying to do is that it's just being present, asking the hard questions, being there, knowing the two differences between this child and how to deal with them. That effort alone, like, yes, our children might find whatever to blame us for later on in life, or whatever, to be like, okay, my parents didn't do this or did that, or comparatively to the next door neighbor, I didn't get this or that.
Yeah.
But I think if by God's grace, if you are trying your best to be present, to know who they are, to the extent that you can, I think there will be less emotionally degraded people, damaged people who are constantly having to go to therapy to just try to find out where this defensiveness that they are constantly putting up walls is coming from, and then tracing it back to your parents. Like, you know what I mean? I know I'm in no way saying that we are perfect parents, because we also struggle with things. Yeah. We also struggle with things that we're also working through. There's things that we're unlearning, the things that we're relearning, and sometimes the things that you're doing for your kids may be completely wrong until like you stumble upon something else that's probably better, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're doing this completely wrong, like, you know. And then but taking the time to correct yourself is also effort. Yeah. Right.
And I remember one time we talked about even just the ability to say I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
And
thank you.
Right? Or I was wrong.
Respecting your child enough.
Yes.
To say, you are a human being, and I see you as a human being. You may be little, but I see you as a human being.
Full human being
with emotion. Yeah. You may not be able to articulate the way that I may be, or an adult may be, but I see you as a full person who gets hurt, who gets their feelings hurt, who gets who I owe an apology when it's due, right? And having that knowledge and having that understanding to be like, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. Yeah. But just acknowledging you and say, hey, thank you for that thing that you did. You're a child. I could ask you to do it, and you could do whatever you want. Yeah. But I'm thanking you for that thing that you did, so that you know that you're also a human being. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I remember when my parents-in-law, they were here, and one of the things that my kids do a lot is they ask a lot of questions. OMG. And why am I surprised? Because I ask a whole bunch of questions. Like, I'm always asking questions. So my kids are like that. And my parents-in-law were like, wow, they were really surprised that we allow them to ask questions.
That's right.
And we don't like shush them or like, oh, you're asking too many questions, keep quiet. You know, and my dad-in-law was saying that. He's like, it's really important for kids to be able to know that they have a safe space to ask these questions, and they know that they have a voice. They have a voice, and that their questions are valid.
That's right.
Yeah. Because one of the things I remember as a child, like not necessarily my parents, but my uncles and aunties around, like I'll ask a question, they'll be like, "What do you know? Keep quiet." You know,
your child, you should be going to sleep.
Your child, go and sleep, but don't talk. Like, why are you talking when adults are talking? Even though, like, I get it. Like, you know, there's a place where you should talk, and a place where you should just listen. Yeah. But them, it was just like, I am more important here.
Absolutely.
You are a small being. You shouldn't talk, you know? And just even having that, allowing them that, like the kind of confidence that they will have.
Absolutely.
It's priceless. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like when we look at things like that, like the difference in the generations, like I know that's definitely one thing that like I thank my dad for particularly, because the reason why I'm so inquisitive is because my dad, when he was there, allowed that space for me to be able to ask questions, you know, and he would always encourage, like, are you sure you know, keep asking, keep asking. But then like other uncles, I would always know that I can talk like this with dad, but I can't talk like this with other people, you know? So I think that's really important. But then the other thing too is that this concept of saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Like that one,
oh my goodness.
Wow. You know, to this day, we'll put a pause. In fact, not pause. We will just leave it as a pregnant pause and move on. You guys can complete that sentence. My goodness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very important that they understand that they have a voice. Because like you saying that you could have that that interaction with your father and be okay to ask the questions. Like that was completely different for me. Yeah. And I'm trying very hard to walk the tightrope of letting the lack of me having that dictate how I'm going to do it with my kids, right? Not because, my father or my mother didn't give me the opportunity to have a voice, then as a result, I'm going to let my kids say everything that they want to me. And just the two extremes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I personally believe that that's where like the wisdom of God really comes in, because if you're not careful, the things that you may have gone through, or the things that you may have not gone through as a child, can dictate how you do what you do with your kids, or how your kids interact with you. And it could be complete opposites, complete extremes, right? So you want to be able to, I mean, with the grace of God, walk the fine line in between, or find the good medium, the balance, where you could you're not using what you went through as a child to let it propel who you are as a parent.
And you're right. I'll give you a perfect example. Like, so a few weeks ago, we were sitting down with the family, like, I don't know, towards the end of the night. Usually at the end of the night we sit down, how was your day? And Azarel started going off, asking questions. But then, like, Quigo and I were looking at him and we're like, this kid he's bordering on the line of rude at this point, you know? But we were like, let's see how it goes. As he was asking, and then we would say something, he'd be like, but why does it have to be that way? Like his attitude, or like, this attitude right here is unacceptable.
Right.
So like, I think, and that's also because we know when Azarel is legitimately asking questions, and when he's just being flat out rude.
Yeah, or trying to push
the boundaries. Exact boundaries. Exactly. Yeah. Like he was legitimately pushing boundaries. Yeah. And he had pushed a boundary too far. Yeah. And so automatically we're like, no, we're going to shut that down. That's unacceptable. Your attitude is rude. Your tone is rude. Right. And even when we were doing that, he was still being rude. We're like, okay, you're grounded. That's it. You know what I mean? So it's not to say that, because they didn't let us talk, all of a sudden now you let your child step all over you. Yeah, no. Absolutely. Because children also thrive on discipline and routine.
And structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people are like, no, your child needs structure.
They need it.
They need structure.
To be able to thrive in life, because they're going to go out there and they're going to meet people who have had the structure and they won't know what to do.
They won't. And they'll just be like, oh, they're stepping all over me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They're structured and they have discipline.
Absolutely.
And that's what you need as an adult.
As an adult to thrive in life, right? So I think it's very important for us to like find that good medium and just be like, okay, this child is being very curious, and I'm going to give her that chance to be able to express that. But like your example, put a pause on whatever is completely out of sync.
And it takes knowing your child too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because so it goes back to the basics.
It goes back to knowing your child, knowing, these things. And you can only really know your child if you're present and you spend time with them. Because if I didn't, I'd have been like, oh, he's just asking questions.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, I know you well enough when
I know
you
where
start
this is
crossing
going.
the line. Yeah. See? So those are things that like, But I feel like our parents, like when I think about my parents, like I feel like they did the best they knew how to do. Because I feel like we're privy to a lot of information. Right. You know what I mean? Like Instagram is like nonstop about parenting tips. Like I'm not even mad at that because like I've learned so many things.
So many things.
Oh, okay. I could do like the other day I learned something about like was it you that sent it to me, or was it my sister? It was like a thing that says try 3 before me or something. And it was trying to encourage the child to try to do something 3 times before they automatically just say mommy, And I was like, this is really great. Cause like my daughter she doesn't even try. She's like, mommy, mommy. And it's kind of like, no, try. Yeah. And so I saw that on Instagram. I'm like, this is great. So like, I feel like we have so much access to information that it helps. I guess it's 2 ways, right? It can either really help you, or it could completely make you feel like you're useless. Yeah. Like all these great moms on the internet. Why am I sucking at this job?
I think I completely agree. But I also think, again, it takes the wisdom of God to know that you are doing the best that you can, and God is leading you in this in this journey of parenthood. Because yes, Instagram, Facebook, whatever can make you feel like you don't know what to do.
You don't know what you're doing
at all. But I'm also a big advocate of asking questions to people who have come before you, right?
Yeah.
And getting the tips, right? Because like at the end of the day, like, yes, some information, take the information that you need and what works for you and your household and chuck the rest, right? Yeah. Like there's been questions I've asked you about like parenting or the mom group that we're a part of, because I don't know jack about this thing. Okay? Somebody
like, just try.
Explain something. And I love that so much, especially now, because like I'm at least the mom group that we're in, there's no form of judgment or there's not it's not coming out like, oh, you're doing this bad or whatever. But I can genuinely ask a question that I honestly do not know about my child. And there'll be somebody there that can say, okay, hey, I tried it this way, maybe try it that way. And I think in this generation that we have the space for that, and that's good, because it helps you also know how, because nobody knows what they're doing.
Let it be known
that this parenting, we're all figuring it out as we go. Like every single day is different. I always say with Ellie Grace, she's my first. It's always going to be my first for everything. Her going to school is going to be my first. Her going to middle school is going to be my first. Her going to high school, college, whatever, is going to be my first. So I don't know. Right? Yeah. So if somebody I trust is like you had a kid before me, and if you have gone through that journey, it's okay if I can ask you and say, hey, what happened here? Like,
help me out here. Help me figure this out.
Help me out, right? And I think I'm a big proponent of that, just to help you out in this journey, right? Because we're all figuring it out. And again, God will give you the guidance to be like, this thing that you're doing doesn't really look great. And this thing that you're doing, you know? So I think God's guidance also is very...
That's a good way to end this episode, I think. God's guidance. Wisdom. Yeah. His Holy Spirit.
For sure. Yeah. Without that,
our children would be wayward.
Yes.
So we just have to thank God for good kids.
No, we're as we end, we're just gonna I think one thing I would love for my girls to know is that they are they matter. Like, they matter as individuals, just as they are, and just to know that they have the they could have the confidence to hold space in this life, right? As children of Black children, there's an added layer that we have to always constantly address
and affirm,
right? And affirm them constantly, and not take them for granted, and listen to them, right? So I think one thing that just like, they matter, they can hold space, and we love them, really.
That's definitely for me and my kids as well, that they matter. Because when they know that they matter, when they know that they can hold space, like that translates to them being confident.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So we hope this episode, again, jogs your mind to have conversations. If you have older kids or younger kids, just also like navigate parenting. It's a conversation starter. Hopefully, it's good for you to also have conversations with your friends, with your family, about just kind of parents that you want to be, the kind of mother, the kind of father that you want to be. It's been a good chat.
This has been great.
It's been great. So that's it for this time. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.